Welcome, dreamer. Tonight, you leave the noise of the world behind and enter a place of quiet stories, forgotten moments, and peaceful adventures. Get comfortable, close your eyes, and let your adventure begin.
The year is 1923, and you are driving a borrowed motor car along a narrow country road high in the hills as the last gray light of evening drains slowly out of sky. The engine rattles beneath you in that particular way old engines do, steady but talkative, and the headlamps throw two shaky cones of yellow light onto the dirt road ahead. Somewhere behind you, far off over the valley, you can hear the low, distant rumble of thunder, rolling in slow and unhurried. The first quiet warning of the storm that has been building all afternoon. You are the newly hired night manager of the old hotel at the edge of the mountain town, and tonight is your very first shift. You were told, when you were hired a week ago, that autumn storms in these hills could be sudden and fierce, that travelers on a mountain road sometimes find themselves caught out in them, and that the hotel has always kept its doors open on nights like this, ready to take in anyone the weather sends its way. You did not think much of that warning at the time. Tonight, watching the clouds pile up dark and heavy over the ridge ahead of you, you begin to understand it. The road climbs, curling through stand of tall pine, and the wind picks up, pushing gently at the sides of the motor car, rattling the loose canvas top above your head. The first fat drops of rain begin to strike the windshield, slow at first, then faster, until you switch on the wipers and lean forward slightly, peering through the gathering dark for the turn you were told to watch for. Somewhere off to your left, you catch the pale shape of a farmhouse, its windows already lit against the coming dark, smoke rising from its chimney only to be caught and scattered by the wind. You pass a mail carrier on horseback, hunched deep into his coat, hurrying the last stretch of his route before the weather turns fully, and you exchange a brief wave as you pass. Two travelers alike in their hurry to be somewhere warm and dry before the sky opens fully, and then, cresting a final rise, you see it, a warm, golden glow spilling from tall windows set into pale stone walls, half wrapped in ivy, standing at the edge of the town like something out of an old postcard. The hotel. You turn the motor car into gravel drive just as the sky opens fully. Rain now falling in earnest, drumming hard against the canvas roof. You pull up close to the front steps, switch off the engine, and make a dash to the door, your coat pulled up over your head, your shoes splashing through puddles already forming in the gravel. You reach the heavy wooden doors, push them open, and step gratefully into warm light and the low crackle of fire, the doors swinging shut behind you against the growing storm. The lobby is just as you remember from your interview a week before. High beamed ceilings, dark with paneling, an old brass case clock ticking steadily near the staircase, its pendulum swinging in slow, patient arcs. A fire burns low and steady in the great stone hearth at the far end of the room, and two deep armchairs sit angled toward it, their leather cracked and soft with years of use. Electric lamps, still something of novelty out here in the hills, cast a warm amber glow from brass fixtures along the walls, flickering faintly now and then as the storm outside tugs at the wires. Behind the front desk, the outgoing manager is already shrugging into his overcoat, clearly eager to beat the worst of the weather home. He is an older man, mustached, with kind, tired eyes, and he greets you with a firm handshake and a knowing look toward the windows, where rain now streams in silver sheets down the glass. "Storm's coming in fast tonight," he says, his voice low, matching the hush of the room. "You'll likely have company before it's through. Folks caught out on a mountain road always find their way here when the weather turns." He says this not with worry, but with a kind of quiet certainty. The way a man speaks is something that has happened many times before and will happen many times again. He walks you through the evening quickly, but thoroughly. He hands you a heavy iron ring strung with brass rune keys, each one tagged with small ivory disc bearing a hand-painted number. He hands you the guest ledger, its leather cover soft and dark with age, and beside it, the hotel's registration book for any unexpected arrivals, its pages blank and waiting. He shows you where the spare linens are kept, where the lamp oil is stored in case the electric lines go down in the storm, as they sometimes do, and where the kitchen keeps a kettle always ready for hot tea. Finally, he presses into your hand a smaller, older key, worn smooth and dark, and tells you simply that it opens every door in the building and that you are to use it wisely. "There's supper laid by warm in the kitchen if anyone comes in hungry," he adds, pulling his hat down low, "and candles in the drawer there, should the lights go out. You'll manage fine." With that and a final tip of his hat, he steps out into the rain, hurrying down the steps toward his own motor car, and is gone, the heavy doors swinging shut behind him with a solid final thud. You are alone now, truly alone in this grand old hotel, with a storm building steadily outside, and if the outgoing manager is to be believed, strangers already somewhere out on the mountain road, making their way toward your door. You take a slow breath, feeling the quiet settle over you, and set about your rounds, determined to have the place ready for whatever the night brings. You move first to the ground floor, turning up the electric lamps as you go, letting warm light spread gradually through the old rooms. The dining room is already set for the evening, white cloth smooth flat. Small brass candlesticks placed at each table in case the power should fail. Through the tall windows, you can see almost nothing now but the rain itself, falling in thick silver curtains, the trees beyond bending and thrashing under the wind. You check the sitting room next, its leather chairs arranged near a low fire, a wireless radio set in one corner, its dial silent for the evening. You find a library beyond it, shelves of books rising to the ceiling, a rolling ladder leaning against one wall. Two reading chairs angled toward a tall window that now rattles softly in its frame with each gust of wind. You pause there only a moment before moving on, aware that with a storm like this, your evening rounds may not stay quiet for long. Sure enough, you have barely finished checking the fireplace in the sitting room when you hear it. The low rumble of an engine outside, growing louder than the sound of tires on wet gravel, and a moment later, urgent knocking at the front doors. You hurry to answer, pulling them open against the wind, and find two drenched, wide-eyed travelers on the step, a young man and woman. Their motor car stalled halfway up the drive behind them, its headlamp still burning weakly through the rain. Our automobile gave out just short of the gate. The young man says, half shouting over the storm, water streaming from the brim of his hat, "We saw your lights and came the rest of the way on foot." You usher them in quickly out of the wind and pull the doors shut behind them. They stand dripping in the lobby, laughing a little now with relief, brushing rain from their coats. You take their names to the registration book, a Mr. and Mrs. Whitfield, newly married, on their way to visit family 2 towns over when the storm caught them on an exposed stretch of the mountain road. You settle them into the armchairs by the fire, fetch towels from the linen closet, and put the kettle on for tea, the whole process unhurried despite the drama of their arrival. the warmth of the lobby already working to calm them. While the tea brews, you learn a little more of their story. They have been driving since morning, hoping to reach their destination before dark, but the storm had other plans. Mr. Whitfield describes, with the excitable energy of a man still catching his breath, how the road had turned to running mud just below the ridge, how the automobile's engine had sputtered and died at the worst possible moment, how they had seen your lights glowing through the rain like something out of a storybook and known at once they were saved. His new wife laughed softly at his telling, adding a quieter detail here and there, mentioning the small carved wooden box tucked safely inside her coat, a wedding gift from her grandmother she had refused to leave behind in the stranded motor car even for a moment, storm or no storm. You find yourself smiling as you pour their tea, glad, in this strange new job of yours, to be the one who gets to offer shelter on a night like this. They tell you, too, a little about where they are headed. A small farming town 2 valleys over where Mrs. Whitfield's family has kept land for 3 generations, and how they had hoped to arrive in time for a family supper that was, by now, surely long finished without them. You assure them the kitchen is plenty spare, and Mrs. Whitfield's eyes brighten with relief at the mention of food, the long, damp drive clearly having left both of them thoroughly hungry as well as thoroughly soaked. You settle them into a room on the 2nd floor, a pleasant space overlooking what would be, in daylight, the garden below. You light the fireplace for them, leave a fresh candle on the nightstand in case the power falters, and promise to have their motor car look to come morning, once the road is passable again. They thank you warmly, still a little giddy with the adventure at all, and you leave them to settle in, making your way back downstairs just as another gust of wind rattles hard against the windows, rain hissing sideways across the glass. You have barely returned to the front desk when the doors open again, this time without any knock at all, simply pushing against the wind by a lone figure in a long dark quickly. An old leather satchel clutch tight. He settles by the fire with contented He is sigh. Older, setting gray at the temple carefully beside his He steps inside. He is talkative, unhurried manner of a man who has weathered far worse storms than this one is. And as you move about, he introduces himself as Mr. Ashford. He tells you a little about the town. A traveling salesman making his usual circuit through the hill town. Washed out further Caught this time. He explains with a wry smile, this has been a wetter farther from shelter than he liked from the sky, finally half an ear as you work. Appreciating the easy company, even as the storm continues to build outside, thunder now rolling almost continuously somewhere beyond the ridge. You show Mr. Ashford to a room on the 1st floor, near the library, at his own request, explaining that he likes to be near books when he travels, even if he rarely has time to read them. He thanks you, tips his hat, and disappears down the hallway, whistling softly to himself. Returning to the lobby, you find a moment of quiet at last, and you use it to check the fireplace, add another log, and glance out to the tall windows at the storm still raging beyond the glass. Lightning flashes somewhere over the ridge, briefly illuminating the churning clouds, followed a few long seconds later by a low, rolling boom of thunder that you feel as much as hear, a faint tremor passing to the old stone floor beneath your feet. You find yourself, despite the noise and chaos of weather, feeling strangely settled, almost cheerful, caught up in the small, satisfying rhythm of welcoming travelers in from the storm. You decide to use this brief lull to check on the 2 rooms already occupied, moving quietly down the hallway, listening at each door only long enough to be sure all is well. You hear, faintly, the low murmur of the Whitfields talking softly to one another, punctuated by an occasional laugh, and from Mr. Ashworth's room, a soft rustle of paper, as though he has, after all, decided to read a little before sleep. You continue your rounds, checking the remaining ground floor rooms, Straightening a few chairs left askew by the wind gusting in through gaps beneath the old windows, adjusting a curtain here and there. As you pass through the small sitting room again, you notice the wireless radio has caught a faint signal despite the storm, a distant, crackling voice reading the evening news from a station clearly several towns away. And you pause a moment to listen, catching snatches of talk about the storm system moving through the region before the signal fades again into static. You switch the set off gently and continue on. It is not long before the doors open a third time, this time to reveal an elderly woman, small and sharp-eyed, wrapped in a heavy shawl, being helped up the front steps by a younger man you take at first for her son, though you later learn he is simply a fellow traveler who happened upon her stranded motor car and would not leave her stranded in the storm. The woman, who gives her name as Mrs. Pemberton, explains, once settled and given tea, that she had been visiting her sister in the next valley and had insisted on driving herself home despite her nephew's warnings about the weather, a decision she now, with good humor, admits was perhaps not her wisest. Her rescuer, a quiet, practical young man named Foster, explains that he had been walking the mountain road himself, having missed the last coach out of town, and he came across a motor car stopped dead in the mud, its wheels sunk hopelessly. Mrs. Pemberton sitting inside with admirable calm, waiting, as she puts it, for someone sensible to come along. Foster had helped her the rest of the way on foot, her arm through his, both of them soaked through by the time they reached your door. You settle Mrs. Pemberton into a comfortable chair near the fire, wrap a warm blanket about her shoulders, and see to it that both she and Foster are given hot tea and a plate of a supper left warm in the kitchen. Foster eats gratefully, admitting he had not realized quite how far he had walked until he finally sat down. Mrs. Pemberton, meanwhile, entertains the room with a colorful account of her sister's opinions on modern automobiles. Opinions which apparently include a firm belief that horses never once left a person stranded in the storm. A claim that draws a soft laugh even from Mr. Ashworth, listening from the spot by the library door. It is just as this laughter is fading that the lamps flicker once, twice, and then go dark entirely. The whole lobby dropping suddenly into the deep orange glow of the fire alone. A low chorus of surprised murmurs rising from your gathered guests. You are on your feet at once, unbothered. Already reaching for a drawer of candles the outgoing manager pointed out to you earlier. You light them one by one, setting a small brass candlestick on each table on the mantel along the front desk, until the lobby glows soft and warm in a dozen small points of flickering light, quite different from the electric glow before, but no less welcoming for it. Mr. Ashworth, watching you work, remarks with a chuckle that has always found candlelight suits a storm far better than electric bulbs ever could, and Mrs. Pemberton agrees, declaring the whole scene rather romantic, to the visible embarrassment of the newly married Whitfields. You explain, as you finish setting out the candles, that the lines often go down briefly in weather like this, and that they should be restored by morning, if not sooner. No one in the lobby seems the least bit troubled by the news. If anything, the soft candlelight seems only to deepen the easy, companionable mood that has settled over the room. The storm outside now feeling less like an inconvenience and more like the occasion for a small, unplanned gathering of strangers. You settle Mrs. Pemberton into a ground floor room, close at the lobby at her quiet request, and find Foster room nearby as well, both of them clearly exhausted from their ordeal on the mountain road. As you show them to their doors, Mrs. Pemberton pauses to thank you, her sharp eyes softening for a moment. This old place has taken in strangers on storm nights since long before you were born, dear, she says, patting your arm. It has a way of doing it kindly. You're carrying on a fine old tradition. You are not quite sure how to answer that, but you find the words settling warmly in your chest as you make your way back to the lobby, now home before unexpected guests. all sheltering safely from the storm still raging outside. With your new arrival settled, you find yourself with a rare stretch of quiet, and you use it to sit at the front desk and page to the old guest ledger, curious, as new night managers often are, about who has passed through these doors before you. You find entries from years past describing storms much like this one, other travelers taken in from other bad nights on a mountain road. The same warm hospitality extended again and again across the hotel's history. You find a note from a previous manager, dated some years back, describing an especially fierce autumn storm that knocked out the electric lines for 2 full days, during which the entire hotel had run by candlelight and oil lamp, guests and staff alike gathering each evening in the library to tell stories by the fire until lights returned. You smile at the thought, glancing toward the drawer where the candles are kept, hoping a little that tonight's storm does not quite call for their use, though you find yourself not entirely opposed to the idea either. You continue reading for a while, learning small pieces of the hotel's long history, before deciding to check the upper floors once more, wanting to be certain everything remains secure against the wind now howling steadily outside. As you climb the stairs, the old building creaks and groans around you in a way that might unsettle a stranger, but which you are already beginning to recognize as simply the sound of a well-built old structure standing firm against a storm, its bones settling and shifting slightly under the pressure of the wind, the way an old ship might groan against rough water. At the top of the stairs, you make your way down the long hallway, checking each door, pausing occasionally at a window to watch the storm outside, lightning now flashing more frequently, briefly turn the dark, rain lashed garden below into stark silver and black. During one such flash, you catch sight of movement near the tree line at the edge of the property, and you pause, peering closer to the streaming glass, before another flash reveals it clearly, a lone figure, hunched against the wind, making slow, determined progressive to drive toward the hotel. You hurry back downstairs just as the front doors are pushed open once more, admitting a very wet, very weary young man dressed in the rough clothes of a farmhand, his cap pulled low, water running freely from the brim. He explains, between grateful gasps of breath, that he had been walking home from a neighboring farm when the storm caught him fully in the open, the road behind him now impassable, where a small creek has overflowed its banks. He gives his name as Tom, apologizes several times for the mud he is tracking across the lobby floor, and seems genuinely astonished at the warmth of his welcome when you assure him it is no trouble at all, that the hotel is glad to have him in from the weather. You bring him in by the fire alongside the others, fetch him dry blankets and hot tea, and within a few minutes he has been fully absorbed into small, cheerful company gathered there, Mrs. Pemberton insisting he take the good armchair, Mr. Ashworth offering to share his own supper, the Whitfields, drawn back downstairs by the commotion, adding their own laughing account of their earlier automobile trouble to the growing collection of storm stories now circulating through the lobby. You stand back for a moment, taking in the scene. 5 strangers, each arrived by their own small adventure on the mountain road tonight, now gathered together by the fire like old friends. The storm outside no longer some fear, but simply the backdrop to an unexpectedly warm and lively evening. You find yourself thinking that this, perhaps, is exactly what the outgoing manager meant when he spoke of the hotel's long tradition of taking in travelers on nights like this one. You settled Tom into a small, comfortable room near the kitchen at his own quiet request, explaining that he does not wish to trouble the finer rooms with his mud-caked boots. You see to it he has dry clothes borrowed from staff quarters, a hot meal, and a warm bed, and he thanks you with such evident sincerity that you find yourself smiling all the way back down the hallway. With all 5 guests now settled for the night, you make one final round of the ground floor, banking the fires low for the evening, checking that the doors and windows are secure against the storm, Still raging steadily outside, though perhaps you notice, beginning at last to ease slightly. The thunder now rolling more distantly, the lightning flashes further apart. You extinguish the lamps in the unused rooms, leaving only the lobby and hallway lights burning low, and settle finally into the chair behind the front desk, listening to the old clock tick steadily beside you, the fire crackling low on the hearth, the rain still falling steadily, but no longer with the fierce, driving urgency of earlier in the evening. You allow yourself, at last, a quiet moment to simply sit and listen to the rain against the windows, to the old building settling gently around you, to the faint, comfortable murmur of guests drifting off to sleep somewhere above and around you, each one safely sheltered from the storm that might otherwise have left them stranded on the dark mountain road tonight. You think of Mrs. Pemberton's words about the hotel's long tradition of kindness on nights like this, and you feel, for the first time since your interview a week ago, that you truly understand what this job is meant to be. The night deepens slowly around you, the storm gradually easing hour by hour, the thunder fading first, then the wind, until at last only a soft, steady rain remains, falling gently against the old stone walls, a peaceful sound now rather than a fierce one. You make quiet rounds every so often, checking that the fires remain banked safely, that all is well throughout the sleeping hotel. Each round shorter and quieter than the last as the night wears on and the building settles ever more deeply into rest. Near midnight, you find yourself back in the library, drawn by curiosity to a small shelf of journals kept by previous managers, much like the one you were shown during your interview. You settle into one of the reading chairs, the storm now reduced to a gentle patter against the tall window beside you, and open the oldest journal you can find. The handwriting is careful and old-fashioned, describing years of storms much like tonight's. Travelers taken in, meals shared, friendships formed over a single unexpected night beneath this roof. You read a particularly memorable storm some 15 years past that had stranded an entire touring theater company at the hotel for 3 full days. The guests entertained themselves and each other each evening with impromptu performances in the ballroom, an event the journal's writer clearly recalled with great fondness. You read, too, of quieter storms, single travelers taken in and sent safely on their way come morning. Each one a small, unremarkable kindness that nonetheless added up across the decades to something the journal's writer clearly considered the hotel's finest tradition. Further along, you find an entry describing a night when the storm had been so fierce that a small landslide briefly blocked the mountain road entirely, stranding nearly a dozen travelers at the hotel over a single wild evening. The staff pressed into service, setting up cots in the library and sitting room to accommodate everyone. The whole building humming with the unlikely, cheerful energy of a party no one had planned to attend. The writer notes, with evident pride, that not a single guest went without a hot meal or a dry bed that night, whatever the storm outside was doing. You find another entry, shorter and more personal, describing a manager's own young daughter, delighted rather than frightened by a particularly loud crack of thunder, declaring to the assembled guests that the hotel itself must be very brave indeed to stand so firm against such noise. You close the journal gently and sit for a while longer in the quiet library, listening to the last of the storm fading outside, feeling entirely at peace with the strange, eventful evening behind you. Eventually you rise and make your way back to the front desk, checking the lobby one final time before the deepest, quietest hours of the night settle fully in. You climb once more to the upper floors, moving slowly and quietly now, past doors behind which your 5 guests sleep soundly, safe and dry despite the storm that so nearly left them stranded on a mountain road tonight. You pause at a window along the hallway and look out at the night beyond, the rain now barely more than a mist, the clouds beginning here and there to break apart, revealing brief glimpses of a scattering of stars beyond. Far below, the town lies dark and quiet, a few scattered lamps still burning here and there, warm and small against the wet night. You make your way at last to the small rooftop door near the end of the 3rd floor hallway, drawn by the same curiosity that pulled you there earlier in the evening, and step out into the cool, damp air. The storm has passed almost entirely now, the last clouds drifting apart to reveal a wide, clear stretch of night sky, stars scattered thick and bright above the dripping, rain-washed hills. Below you, the mountain road curls away into darkness, empty now. The last of tonight's travelers already safely inside, and you find yourself thinking of each of them in turn. The Whitfields in their stalled motor car, Mr. Ashworth in his easy conversation, Mrs. Pemberton's sharp wit and warm gratitude, quiet Foster who would not leave a stranger stranded, young Tom soaked through from his long walk home. 5 strangers, 5 small adventures, all converging tonight beneath this one old roof. You stand there a long while, breathing the clean, rain-washed air, watching the stars emerge fully now as the last clouds clear the ridge, feeling a deep, quiet satisfaction settle over you, the particular kind that comes from having done, on your very first night, exactly what this old hotel has always done: open its doors, however wild the weather, to whoever needed shelter. Somewhere far below, a dog barks once, twice, then falls silent. The only sound now besides a steady drip of water from the eaves and the faint, distant rush of the swollen creek at the bottom of the valley. You trace the line of the mountain road with your eyes, following it as far as you get into the darkness, thinking of how empty and dangerous it must have seemed a few hours ago to each of your 5 guests, and how different it looks now, calm and silver under the clearing sky, simply a road again, its earlier menace entirely spent. Eventually the cold begins to reach you, and you make your way back down to a quiet hotel, checking one last time that all remains well, before settling back into the chair behind the front desk as the night wears on toward its deepest, stillest hour. The rain has stopped completely now, and through the tall lobby windows you can see the clouds continuing to clear, the first faint hint of stars visible low over the mountains. The hours pass gently after that. The hotel settled fully now around its sleeping guests, the storm long since passed into memory. You busy yourself with small, quiet tasks, restocking the candle drawer in case tomorrow's weather calls for it again, checking at the kitchen prepared for an unusually full breakfast service come morning, adding a final careful entry to the registration book, noting each of tonight's 5 unexpected guests by name, a small record that will join all the others in the hotel's long history of storm nights and sheltered travelers. As the sky beyond the windows begins at last to soften toward dawn, you hear the first stirrings of your guests waking above you, footsteps in the hallway, a door opening somewhere on the 2nd floor. You move to the kitchen and begin preparing a proper breakfast. Coffee brewing rich and fragrant, eggs and bread set ready, determined that after the ordeal of last night's storm, each of your unexpected guests should wake to a warm, generous welcome. One by one, they make their way down to the dining room, road-weary but rested, greeting each other now with the easy familiarity of people who shared something memorable together the night before. Mr. Whitfield reports happily that a mechanic from town has already been sent for to look at their motor car. Mrs. Pemberton declares, over a plate of eggs, that she has never in her life had such an adventure, and seems rather pleased about it. Foster and Tom, seated together, compare notes on the state of the mountain road, agreeing it will likely take most of the morning to clear. Mr. Ashworth, checking his pocket watch, announces with satisfaction that he has time yet before his next stop, and asks, with a hopeful glance toward the library door, whether he might borrow a book for the road. You move among them, refilling cups, answering questions, seeing to it that everyone is fed and warm and ready in their own time to continue on their way through the tall dining room windows. The morning light grows steadily stronger, the sky clearing to a pale, washed blue. The storm now nothing more than a story each of your guests will carry with them. The story of the night the weather turned and an old hotel in the hills opened its doors and took them in. By the time the morning manager arrives, stepping through doors now flooded with clean, bright daylight, your first shift is very nearly complete. You hand over the registration book, now filled with 5 new names, and give a full account of the night's events. The storm, the string of unexpected arrivals, the fires kept burning, the tea and supper and warm beds offered to each traveler in turn. She listens with a knowing smile, clearly unsurprised, and tells you simply that you have done exactly what the job requires, and done it well. You gather your things and step outside into the cool, bright morning, the gravel drive still damp beneath your feet. Puddles here, and they're catching the early sunlight. The mountains beyond stand sharp and clear against a scrub blue sky. The storm's only remaining trace of fresh, clean scent in the air and a steady drip of water from the eaves above. You pause at your motor car and look back once at the old hotel, its stone walls pale in the morning light, its windows catching the sun. 5 safe and grateful guests still inside finishing their breakfast. You climb into the motor car, start the engine, and pull slowly away down the drive, already looking forward in the quiet, satisfied way of someone who's found work worth doing, to whatever travel the mountain road might send your way on your very next stormy night.